Hello everyone, my name is Raju Dandigam. I'm currently working as a staff engineer at Navan. Today we are diving into how Frontend Analytics can transform the way we build, debug, and improve our web applications. Whether you're in product, design, engineering, or growth, this talk is about enabling smarter decisions based on real user data. So, what does Frontend Analytics mean? Frontend Analytics is like putting on a pair of glasses and seeing the app through the user eyes. It tells us what people actually do on our site, where they click, how far they scroll, how long they stay, or even where they rage click out of frustration. Imagine watching someone try to sign up, but they get stuck on field. That insight can make the difference between a user bouncing or converting. So why does front-end analytics matters? So the reality is most users never report bugs or a confusion. They just leave the website or web application. Analytics help us catch those silent failures. It also helps us test ideas quickly. Let's say that a team launches a new pricing page. With analytics, we can see instantly whether it improves signups or hurts them. So we don't need to wait for our gut feelings or customer complaints. So the analytics will give us the fast and the reliable feedback. So who benefits out of these front-end analytics? So this is not just for data folks. This help us pretty much everyone in the team. So it could be product, engineering, growth, or design. So in case of product teams, they get prioritized features that actually matter by analyzing the funnels or by looking at the user data. Engineers can debug based on the real usage instead of guessing, and then debug issues and see where the actual drop is. Growth teams can use the analytics to run the experiments, A/B test, and optimize the flows, and then again analysis of the existing funnels. Designers can actually validate their layouts, UI UX designs, and then see the user behavior choices. It creates a shared understanding across teams. So what actually we can track with this front-end analytics? So we are not just tracking clicks, right? So here, think about capturing a user intent. So for example, someone searching for a product, starting a sign up or hovering on a help icon, we can track time spent reading a feature or how many people scroll all the way down to the home page or how many people actually figuring out things, how much time they are spending to do the action they're supposed to do. So pretty much everything can be tracked and analyzed. The point is to understand what the user is trying to do, not just the not just what they are clicking and what they're trying to accomplish. Those are the things we try to track and get out of the analytics. So what are the types of analytics? So there are different flavors of analytics, but majorly there are like four types. They are like behavioral, technical, experimental, and then session replace. So what generally each tell about is basically behavioral tells you what users did, clicked, dropped off, or stayed. Technical shows things like load time, performance, JavaScript errors, or any errors dropping the user or like user not able to proceed. Whereas experimental is more of a A/B testing and then figuring out which variant is performing better versus other, or what are the difference between the user acceptance or like user interactive in terms of different variations. And whereas session replays, they are like watching video of the user screen, which is basically called for debugging, like for UX reviews, for everything to understand how user is interacting with our web application. So what are the popular tools available for the front-end analytics? There are a lot of tools out there. So I'm not going to go each and every tool, but I just picked the most popular tools available right there. They are like Amplitude, Mixpanel, or PostHack, Sentry. There are bunch more, there are a bunch of more tools available, but I'm not gonna, as I said, I'm not gonna go over into them. But for this session purpose, I just took Amplitude as the example, and then we'll be focusing on the ways how can we set up and then do a simple analysis and then understand how can we make use of it. Why did I choose Amplitude? It is because it is easy to track and understand the user behavior. It is pretty easy and simple to set it up. So let's say that you're a let's say that your product manager wants to know if users are using a feature. and create a funnel and a cohort in seconds, right? So that Amplitude can help you to do that pretty fast. What's even better, you can also send a dashboard to your team without any SQL or any analyst needs. So it's all self-serve. So that's the real-time collaboration which we can get out of these enterprise-focused tools. Let's say that we take a example of sign up. So a sign up funnel, right? So real world example. Say we are losing users midway. So we can break it down. We can understand that we can try the funnel such a way that we can start with sign up start and then the user entered the email and then sign up success. Let's say that if 70% start but only 20% finish, we 20% complete the sign up success, then we know there is a friction. Maybe we test a shorter form. So Amplitude lets us run that A/B test and see if more users complete sign up. We can play around with variation, we can reduce the step, or maybe we can introduce a accordion, or we can introduce a single page. So it's that like there are multiple ways to test it out and roll it out to the certain segments or maybe a same similar cohort, understand what is working, what is not working. So those are the flexibility we generally get with funnel analysis and then experiments. How do we actually integrate, in this case, the amplitude tracking, like analytics tool? So this is pretty standard and it's pretty straightforward in most of the tools cases. So all we do is basically we try to import the amplitude library or maybe so for each and every client and then each and every framework, there will be a respective library we need to import and then we need to initialize with the API key which we get when we subscribe to the any tool. And then here we are looking at a example with React where we just import the amplitude and then all we have to do is basically just log the event whenever we want to, whenever the user takes an action or whenever there is a navigation or any other action. So all we do is basically pass the event name and then associated properties. So in this case, it can be the button name or it could be like number of times clicked or the time spent. Like you can pretty much we can send all custom properties into the event and then we can try to track them. So what is the optimized way of analytics setup? So the idea is tracking starts with a nice plan. So we cannot just log everything, right? So that blows up the data and obviously it will also there are tools charge you based on the amount of data you're tracking. So obviously we don't want to end up track each and everything. So we have to have a plan and then we have to have a procedure or at least I can see a structure to tracking or the analytics you want to target. So in this case, we have to define a clean event list, like what we want to track and then what are the properties which we may think will be helpful to do the analysis, right? So in the future. And then also we can also have some standard patterns like consistent names, group related actions. Let's say that when a user is logging, we can also use the user ID to connect the dots, meaning like we can pass the user ID in the login session so that all the action related to that user is available in that user list. This way we see both anonymous and the logged in user behavior together. So how do we run the A/B test? So let's say that we want to test if a new call to action increases the sign up versus not performing well, right? So how do we want to test it? We can do that with the amplitude experiment. We can split the users into two groups. Let's say that A and B. So we call it as experiment A and experiment B. A sees the old design and B sees the new design. Then we can see how they are converting. So we'll have the conversion rates for each cohort, each cohort is there in the experiment, and then see we can see the which cohort or which experiment is doing better. So then we can get the percentages and then we can confidently say that which version is performing better versus the other one. So this is where the actual power comes in and this is where the product design and then the growth teams can effectively make use of running experiments and then understand what is working for your users. So how can an engineer make use of the analytics? So the best part is we can also debug with analytics. So let's say that you ever released a feature and then suddenly the conversion drop. So with analytics, we can spot the trend and filter by browser or version and correlate with a recent deployment. Also, we can get into more deeper and figuring out by session replays. We can literally watch the user struggle, meaning like where the user are able to proceed versus where user got stuck. It's like time travel for debugging. So what are we taking away of this session? So the summary or what the outcome is basically after this session, we want front-end analytics. We want to understand that front-end analytics isn't just about the dashboards. It's about closing the feedback loop between what we build and what is the user's experience. So we can start small, track a few meaningful events, use tools like Amplitude to make those insights visible across teams, and then use their data to build confidently together. So yeah, that's pretty much about high level, like what we can do and what are the advantages and what can we make with front-end analytics. Thank you. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Thank you for listening.